And welcome back to Shovick Sports Shit. I'm Cory.
And I am Austin.
A lot of things to cover today. NFL cut day. Not a fun day for a lot of people. I'm sure it's a nerve-wracking day for even those guys that think they're on the team or, kind of wondering, did I make the team? Bubble players. But first, we want to start off with some Shovick Sports hits. First one, and we're going to talk about more of them later this episode. Preseason true freshman All-American, Deshaun Warner, KU. Highest rated player the KU's gotten recruit-wise. And one of two freshmen that made the two-deep roster. And we're probably going to see quite a bit of him this week. Oh, man, this week. Thursday night against Lindenwood. I don't remember the last time we've actually had a player come in with this much hype. Maybe Puka. I don't even necessarily know what that is. I'm hoping DJ can handle these expectations because our coaching staff. I mean, if you earn it, you're playing. But it's like a week to week thing. You could have a bad week and they're going to say, hey, get better, right? So, pretty big honors for a true freshman.
Yeah. So what do you think he does this week? Do you think he gets out there and just blows up the stat sheet? Because you'd like to think he's going to be one of the regulars that ends up playing when the game's a blowout. I guess I want to get a feel on what is a fan's expectation of him, given the hype around him.
Yeah, man, I think it's a preseason game, right? Kind of like what we were talking about yesterday off when we were kind of just talking about the NFL and the preseason and whatnot. Not asking for them to, you should go out and win by a lot. We're at the stage now that we should blow these teams out, honestly. But at the same time, with these young guys, I want to make sure they're in the right spots. They're reading. They're in the right coverages. They're communicating it. Because you have Lindenwood, but then you have Illinois, who's going to be a step better, right? Then you're going to have UNLV, who's going to be a little better, and then you got no choice but to, because you have West Virginia on the road to open up Big 12 play. So, I want to see progression. I want to see each week getting better. Is everything going to be perfect tomorrow or Thursday? No. It should be. I mean, it should be damn near perfect. That's just not how it is, right? They're so rust. JD6 hasn't played in how long? So for Warner, I just want to see him in the right spots. If he gets some stats to fill in the stat sheet, I mean, it's a good start, right? There's so many storylines to this, and we'll get to these later on when we're talking about the game. But for him personally, and him being a freshman All-American or making the freshman All-America team, that's just one more expectation to put on him. But I mean, I'm super excited about it. Number 2 on the Shovick Sports Hits, something that you also had mentioned yesterday once the news came out that the Rams were open to trading Ernest Jones. It seemed to this today that the Rams trading Ernest Jones to the Titans. He was their leading tackler last year, the Duke and Ball. And I think that's why you kind of had him on your wish list for the Chiefs, and just seeing for a 5th round pick, I mean, that was kind of doable.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things come into play. He's coming up on an expiring contract, so I'm sure that comes into play a little bit. But even a 5th round pick for a 1-year rental player at a relatively important position, that's kind of how the Chiefs should be operating. You want to look long term, but we're also trying to get a three-peat here. And I think we are still a little thinner at linebacker than usual with Willie Gay being gone. Even if you can't do long term, you're giving up a 5th round pick. You may have done a little bit, could have given up a 6th round pick if you didn't want picks back. Because the Rams also sent a 6th round pick to the Titans. So it's just when quality talent doesn't become available like that, especially this late into the offseason, it's a good gift for the Titans. I mean, they're putting talent on that field, new coaching staff and whatnot. Don't know what to expect, but they got a baller with this guy, and for relatively cheap. Who knows if they sign him long term? But they're probably looking at it where 1 year with him, hopes of long term. Either way, it's a win-win. You're not giving up a lot. Sad to see him go elsewhere, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, Titans obviously already had a good defense to begin with. But that was Mike Vrabel who was kind of running that show and that ship. But you still have Jeffrey Simmons to anchor down that the D line. Now you have this guy to anchor down the linebackers. They did release. I did see they're releasing 2021 first round pick Caleb Farley. I was kind of hoping that would be one Denver maybe kind of peek around and maybe take notice. But I think with a guy like that, there's the demand's going to be there. Rough start to his career, obviously, but I mean, he's still talented. He still has, hey, he's still talented and he's still young enough. So, the Titans team is going to be one to watch in the AFC South. So let's go to number one. I know this makes you super happy. You kind of made the point at probably beginning of summer about wanting to see this get done. Adam Schefter reported Chiefs and Pro Bowl center Creed Humphrey reached an agreement on a 4-year, $72 million extension, including $50 million guaranteed. Humphrey now becomes the highest paid center in NFL history. The deal was negotiated by Ken Sarnoff and Andy Sims of One of One Agency. The Chiefs have their anchor on the line.
Yeah, and I actually think as Chiefs fans, we could probably thank Jason Kelce a little bit for us actually paying a center. I can go through a list of centers here that we have had that have been all pros, Pro Bowlers, really good, that we let walk because we just never wanted to pay centers. But I think the emergence of Jason Kelce and the importance of him on that line the last few years kind of re-upped at least the value of centers for the Chiefs. Obviously, other teams value whatever because they've signed other ones, but we've let Rodney Hudson go, Mitch Morse go. I mean, we've let centers go just because that wasn't a position that really wanted to tie salary cap up into. So I'm stoked it's done. I don't think, it might not be a premium position, but any position that you can literally just have zero worries about is valuable no matter where it is. So I'm happy about it. I'm curious on if this means we'll lose Bolton and or Trey Smith. But of the three, I think Creed Humphrey was the one to keep. So I'm happy about it. That's Patty's dude. Allows no pressure up the middle. Very few penalties. He's athletic. He's just, unfortunately, your typical Oklahoma lineman over the last decade or so.
Nasty.
Yeah. Good for
Nasty.
him.
Yeah,
Good
man.
for him. Good for the Chiefs. Good for the fans. I know a center isn't necessarily sexy by any means, but way more valuable than you think, especially if you don't want your quarterback getting pressure right up the middle, which we don't want Patty getting pressure from anywhere. So I think it was a good move, great move. Fans just need to expect with this move that there's going to be one or two casualties elsewhere on the roster, likely being Bolton or Trey Smith. So to take that into consideration when you see it.
Well, and I think this is a big year for Jawan Taylor too. You can restructure him at the end of this season, try to get some of that money allocated.
He ain't restructuring nothing. He's like,
most of the time those guys don't, but it's an option, right? So, I mean, you can look through and kind of see maybe the BYU guy that you drafted, maybe they're playing with him this season to get him some reps at guard to see what you got there. It'll be interesting to see. There's a lot of storylines already kind of building up, and we haven't even played the first regular season game yet, which is wild to me. So let's kind of dive into this. Some of the first cuts that were kind of meaningful to our teams today was Kadarius Toney and Justin Ross. Kadarius Toney, no one is absolutely surprised by this at all. Sayonara, I know there's two ways to look at it. He got you guys a Super Bowl one year. I don't see it that way, but I'm not a Chiefs fan. He was a big part of it, I guess. But he's just, I don't know, too inconsistent. Matt Nagy said best. He's got to be available, right? He just the best availability is being available, and he's just not available. I don't know. He's still too athletic. I think he'll still get picked up quickly. It may just not be in a situation he wants. Who knows? Justin Ross, it was a good story. He got close last year. You were kind of hoping as a Chiefs fan that this would be a fun thing for him to come back. Dude's definitely probably one of the more talented receivers that could have been one of the talented receivers in the NFL prior to the injury at Clemson, which, again, it sucks, and it does take good talent away from those guys. What's your initial thoughts on those two guys? I mean, I think you were kind of thinking Sky Moore maybe was on that line. So to see that he made the team, but you guys cut Tony and Ross, what's your initial thoughts on those?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of knew Ross would be cut. As good of a feel-good story as it is, just not enough. And with how much we beefed up the receiver room this offseason, it was going to be a big climb for him anyway. I hope he gets a chance somewhere, like a legitimate chance. Because, he was one of the biggest recruits, expected to be one of the better draft picks until all that scary health stuff happened with him. So obviously hope he does land somewhere, anywhere but the Raiders. And then Tony, I'm not like the rest of the Chiefs fans. They're all super pumped and happy and good riddance. But I don't forget that he was a crucial part in winning a Super Bowl. I'm okay with him getting cut, but it's not one of those thank the good Lord, get out of here, good riddance. He was a crucial part in us even being able to be sitting here right now with the potential of a three-peat. I do think his days of being a receiver are slim to none now. And his career, he should really try to focus on trying to be an asset for the new kickoff rule returner. He's just hurt too much out as a receiver. Too many hands for hands moments. He might get a chance if he lands somewhere, just given injuries or on a bad team or something. But he should really try to focus on making his career longer just by focusing on becoming a return guy. I still think Sky Moore was going to be cut, but you're reading the numbers to me, and we kept 7 receivers, typically 6. So I think it being Sky Moore was the reason we kept 7. That's still a pretty high draft pick that we used on him. Draft capital sometimes gives you a little extra length before they just kind of toss you aside. It's still going to be an uphill battle for him to be relevant, just given what they've added to the receiver room. But yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, he's this out of the 7 we kept, he's number 7. So thin line for him, but if he's our number 7 receiver, it could be worse.
And he could be one of those first guys to go to if someone pops onto the free agent market that the Chiefs are like, hey, we feel like we do need an extra safety or corner. We can get by with the 6 receivers that we have. I know it's not like, I typically try to do that on Madden, keep a guy around just in case you need to. But I know it's a little different in real life. So, yeah, I don't – and who knows, maybe Sky Moore finally lives up to his potential now that he knows he's on the bubble. He knows that his days are numbered maybe. It's still crazy to me with 7 receivers, especially when you keep the amount of tight ends that you guys did. Rosters are just weird. This is the weird time of year where you're thinking, why are the rosters constructed this way? But then you look at it and you're kind of like, oh, okay, well, that kind of, I guess, makes sense. Denver keeping 3 quarterbacks, that makes no sense. And then you realize, hey, the NFLPA vetoed that rule where you can no longer call up an emergency quarterback. The guy has to be on your 53 man. So now it's like, well, shit, we probably should keep a third quarterback now just in case. So the next Chiefs one was Chiefs release former second round pick tight end Irv Smith. Not really surprised on this. Kind of hoping he'd finally catch ground somewhere. Another really talented guy at college. Just never got it going. I think an injury in Minnesota his rookie year or something like that. And then he went to Cincy and then comes to Kansas City. Still a talented dude. Hope he's able to land on his feet. One that did kind of surprise me, and maybe it shouldn't have, was the Chiefs released former rugby player Luis Rees-Zammit, the rugby guy. I still think he may be a practice return guy or a practice squad guy. I guess maybe the game just didn't slow down for him enough. Rugby and football are a lot different games, unfortunately. I know it says here that they were hoping to use him as a kick returner. Well, not going to use him as a kick returner now. I don't know if they bring him back to practice squad. I don't know what's next for him. But that is one that kind of surprised me. I mean, all the hype around him during the preseason. It's weird when you see that much hype and then a guy just doesn't perform in the preseason. You're kind of like, oh, now then you realize the NFL is a lot different than most of these. I know there's a ton of UFL guys that got brought onto rosters, but a good chunk of those guys didn't make the team. They also got cut. It's a different beast. It's a different animal. But wish nothing but the best to these guys. Were you shocked by Irv Smith or Zammit as cut candidates?
I wasn't surprised with the Irv Smith. Once the Chiefs drafted Wiley, I knew it was going to be tough for Irv to hang around. Because Kelson, Noah Gray, those two are safe. Roster locks. I'd say we could have kept 4 tight ends, which I guess in theory we have kept 4 tight ends since they traded for Hendershot from the Cowboys. But no, it kind of goes to what you said earlier. Your best ability is availability. Irv Smith has just never been available any level at any place he's gone to. Uber athletic. He's still relatively young, so I'd like to think that his career still has a couple more stops in it, if just given a chance. Kind of the Evan Ingram career arc would be a fair comparison. And it could be one of those where, you played for the Giants, you're not necessarily going to battle through anything, and then you go to the Jags and you're healthy and one of the better tight ends in the league, but uber talented, not surprised. He'll get a shot somewhere for sure, whether it's soon or after a few weeks when injuries happen or whatnot. And then the rugby player, I'm not too surprised. 3 weeks ago, I probably would have been, but with the emergence of Steele, they're kind of the same player, and Steele did a little bit more with his opportunities. I still think the rugby guy does go to the practice squad, because there is hope there, and he's still, I believe, 22 or 23 years old, so there's still room for development. Because you're not wrong, it's a different animal. This isn't rugby. Just like that flag football quarterback saying he's better than Patty, because they're different sports.
Guess we're going to find out. I want to see a 1v1.
Right, but no, he just didn't show quite enough. And like you said, I don't know what's next. I do believe it's our practice squad, but I don't know if other teams have a chance to claim him or not. I don't know if the international league or pathway has a different set of rules than just typical. So I'm not sure, but I still think there's a couple years of development that needs to take place. And then when Steele came along and kind of just won the fans over and actually performed well, that kind of was the final nail in the coffin for him. So Surprised today? No, but 3 weeks ago I would have been, because you were right. There was hype there.
Yeah, and speaking of feel goods, there's at least one feel good story for the preseason for not just Carson Steele, but for Chiefs fans. Dude, I was able to see some of the highlights for the dude. He plays angry. He's a fullback version of Pacheco, essentially. When he runs with the football, you're going to know. And then the special teams plays that he was able to make. One points out that he does wear number 42, like a former Chiefs legend. Not sure why that number is being used or allowed to be used.
Needs to be retired.
But I think this. I think the sausage approves, man. I think sausage would love how the dude plays. I think the sausage would love to have locks like this guy too. His hair's phenomenal. But man, there's always a couple of good stories that come out of preseason, and this is one of them. Outside of 2 games a season, I hope the dude does well. I really do. It's fun to see these kinds of things where the undrafted guys kind of come out of nowhere and then have a good, healthy career. Some of the best players in the NFL history have been undrafted guys. So this is even, I'm not sitting here saying he's going to be the best ever, but it is something that I hope sticks and he can make something out of it. Because it's easy for us to sit here on a podcast, but at the end of the day, we don't understand how hard it truly is to get to that point. So let's transition over to the Broncos. Tim Patrick, Lil Jordan Humphrey, and Samaje Perine were the notables. I kind of said this, the Tim Patrick one during our podcast a couple weeks ago, that I didn't want it to happen, but that was kind of what I thought would happen. The Lil Jordan Humphrey one caught me off guard. I didn't expect that to happen. He's been a Sean Payton guy. But Sean Payton kind of went into this whole process saying, I don't give a fuck, because he also cut Michael Burton. So no one was safe, honestly. I think when he said the youth movement, young and hungry, are dangerous, I think he meant that. Now you have 2 receivers who are rookies. There's a couple corners who are rookies. Jonah Ellis is another rookie. They cut Jonah Griffin, the guy who I had on my watch list of like someone to look for to battle Cody Barton. But they kept another undrafted rookie, Lavondre Bailey. Had a 96-yard touchdown interception Sunday. Made hella plays on special teams. So you got to count your days, honestly, when it comes to preseason. Man, nobody's safe. Well, you have your handfuls that are safe, but Timmy Pass has already landed with Detroit. Good for him. They weren't able to work anything out with Perine, but I saw the Browns might actually be interested in bringing him in, because they did put Nick Chubb on the pup, which, hey, we said Jerome Ford during our fantasy podcast. Jerome Ford was a good handcuff to lock down. So hopefully you guys were able to snatch that. And if not, go get your waivers put in for Jerome Ford. He's a good fill in. Denver's roster is kind of what I expected, but I'm confident that they can win games, but I'm not so confident now in the 10 games that I was thinking originally. They could prove me wrong. They still could, but you got a lot of rookies that are going to be putting in quality time. And like we just said 5 minutes ago with some of the Chiefs players, the NFL is different, right? Like, yeah, it's cool to have rookie quarterbacks, cool, but some of these other key positions, it's worrisome a little bit, but at the same time, you got to trust the process. So any initial thoughts on Tim Patrick and maybe Lil Jordan Humphrey or Samaje Perine being cut? I also did see the Chiefs could possibly be a landing spot for Perine.
Hey, he's usually the one who beat us. He was the Bengals, so I think Broncos didn't use him enough. So good for him. But
yeah, that was crazy. That's so wild to me.
Yeah, I think Perine and Timmy Pats, those are probably, save a little bit of money, given you're paying a dude like $100 million to not play for you. That has to be considered a little bit. So, Lil Jordan Humphrey, I'm not super surprised. Yeah, he's a Sean Payton guy, but Has he done anything to prove that he needs to be on an NFL roster? Not really. He's kind of just hung around Sean Payton long enough. And Sean Payton at this point was probably even like, why? Cool name, maybe? I don't know. Yeah, I would say with the way the Denver's going with their roster, this seems more of like a future year. It is a current year. Obviously, they're still going to try to win now. Let's be honest, nobody in the NFL actually tries to tank. It's not baseball or the NBA. Like, these dudes, nobody wants to lose. It doesn't matter who's in the draft. None of that matters. They all try to win. But this definitely feels more of like a 2-year thing than a current year thing. But Sean Payton's not wrong. You look at the teams, younger and faster and stronger is where teams are headed. You mix in a few of those veterans, but don't have the roster full of them. I would say year one, you're probably going to second guess this roster.
It's going to be growing pains.
Yeah, I mean, when you keep that much youth, that many rookies, there's going to be hell, even a team full of studs, you're going to have growing pains. But and I'm not saying year 2 or 3, you still might hate this, and only time will tell. But I would fully adjust your expectations now. You were right. Like, this team can win games, but it may not be as much as was hoping. Again, crazier things have happened. Like, they had a shot in the NFL, which means they're better than 99.9% of people in the world at football. So it's not like these dudes are scrubs. It's not like a lot of these people can't ball out and show out and make it a really good competitive season for Denver. That's not out of question either. But I would say temper the 1 year this season expectations a little bit for Denver fans, but add maybe a little bit of hope to the future, for the short-term future, the 2 to 3 year window. Because, I mean, teams are winning outside of the Chiefs with rookie quarterback contracts. So this is really the beginning of that window with Bo Nix's contract.
Absolutely.
So why not start that whole foundation that year? And then hopefully by the end of it, year 3 or 4, it's a well-oiled machine, and you get that 1 or 2 year window at the end on that rookie contract to really fill holes. And, Russ's contract will be off the books by that time. You can really, really do with your roster at that point what you want. So, surprising maybe a little bit, because there was some good talent let go. I mean, all 3 people you named probably deserve an NFL roster spot at the very least. Just like how fast Timmy Pats was picked up. I mean, you don't get picked up that quick if you're a scrub. So, yeah, I think after the roster cuts, Denver fans should have a really good idea of what Sean Payton's plan is right now. Whether you agree with it or not, it's some clarity onto what's going on.
Yeah, and you look at how it's set up. These running backs are identical to kind of what he had and he's familiar with in New Orleans, right? Everyone kept saying all offseason and him drafting Bo Nix that this was his Drew Brees, which I'm still not on that boat. Trust me, Bo Nix is awesome, but you're not going to hear me say that. And these receivers are set up. Sutton, Vele, these guys are big receivers with Mims sprinkled in, and Troy Franklin, your speedsters. So yeah, I mean, I see the construction of it. I really do. And it could be a bonus season. Maybe things do click, right? And you do end up getting your 10 to 11 wins. But also don't be surprised if it's a 6-7 win season. That's the growing pains of it. The schedule is not in your favor, especially the first 4 weeks when 3 of your first 4 games are on the road. So, I mean, there's things to be excited about, but I agree with you. Temper it down a little bit. As excited as I am for all this, I know that there's going to be still that chance that they're just not good. And that's okay, because I see a lot of rookies, first, second, third year players mixed in, sprinkled in with those vets. And that's okay. It's time to trust what Sean Payton and those guys are trying to do. So before we move on to KU, I do have a roster breakdown for the Chiefs. They kept 26 offensive players, 2 quarterback, 2 running back, 7 receivers, 4 tight ends, 10 offensive linemen. Man, 7's still a huge number. But I do think that still gives them something to play around with the running back spot. But then again, Carson Steele's not your normal fullback, right? Like, he's still a guy that you can feel comfortable lining up in single back set if you need him to. I still do. I'm still going to go out there and say that the Chiefs maybe still try to pick up a running back. It's not going to be the splashy, big ass move that, they don't need it to be a big splashy move. It could easily it could be a Perine or, a smaller running back that, we're not looking for him to play every down. Just come in, spot, give us a third down look, pass block when we need you to, and maybe catch a ball or two. 4 tight ends. Man, still seeing Jared Wiley. Still see Jared Wiley just chilling there. And this tight end group's nasty. They're gonna be a fun group to watch. 10 offensive linemen. I guess that's normal, right? You have 2 deep. Looking to see no like massive surprises there. One thing I do want to point, in defense, you kept 24 players. I do want to point one out on the defensive side. One that you talked about on our draft review for the Chiefs. Jaden Hicks. This guy had a really good preseason. He was getting a lot of national love from guys breaking film down, kind of showing what he's able to do on the defensive side. Man, this guy could probably push for some playing time.
Yeah, I think with what Spags likes to do, 3 safeties a lot, sometimes like a hybrid safety linebacker. But this dude showed good enough coverage skills to kind of be a slot guy as well. So I'm not sitting here saying, watch out, like here's the next Ed Reed or anything, which would be pretty dope. Let's be honest, that'd be cool. But it's just, he's still a rookie. There's going to be times where he probably does look a little lost, a little bit. But yeah, I like him to fill that role, especially with, we mentioned earlier where I think they're a little light at linebacker. So he might fill in on some of the packages as that hybrid linebacker safety guy. If our corners suck, he can fill in and go to the slot a little bit for coverage purposes. But he's also really good at playing center field safety. So there's versatility there. There's a lot of reason to be excited. You'll hear his name a lot. Some bad, some really good. But that's definitely a player that we should be excited to see. He'll start week 1. We lost enough defensively, and he's good enough to where week 1 you'll hear his name plenty, and you'll know him from day 1 if you don't already. But as a Chiefs fan, you should. But if you're not a Chiefs fan and you don't follow all the teams well enough, it's a name you'll know rather quickly.
Yeah, and the Broncos roster breakdown: 3 quarterback, 4 running back, 5 receiver, 4 tight end, 9 offensive line. Again, not a fan of the 3 quarterback move, but I get why you do it. Still, I think that's a roster spot. And I honestly think that could have been a Timmy Pats or Jared Stidham type thing. It sucks, but that's just kind of how it is. Defensively, you're looking at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 corners and safeties, 4 outside linebacker, 6 defensive linemen, and then 4 inside linebackers. The more I look at who they have slotted in these defensive spots, the more I'm getting. I don't think the defense is going to be as bad as some think. They're not going to go out and be world beaters by any means. The linebackers are still weak. Let's still be honest about that. The linebackers are still weak. I do think the D-line is going to be a lot better than people think. 6 of them, and a John Franklin Meyer addition with Malcolm Roach to go with Zach Allen and DJ Jones. I do like that group. The safety group, PJ Locke, Brandon Jones. Brandon Jones obviously is hurt, so we'll see what that looks like. I know Caden Smith had a pretty good preseason, had a couple interceptions and a touchdown. 4 outside linebackers is weird to me. You need pass rush. It's still going to be a thin group, so we can't afford really anything. We can't afford to lose those guys, and some of those guys do have an injury history, so hopefully we're able to keep those guys healthy. I'm expecting a huge season from Nick Bonito. Hopefully, he's year 3. It's time to, take that next step. It's almost contract time. But yeah, man, the corners might have a Riley Moss. I mean, that's weird to me. That's why I'd like to see Denver maybe take another look at a corner. But who knows? Riley Moss, Sean Payton traded up to get him. Maybe he obviously knows more than I do. There's still some good ones there. Yeah, I mean, the rosters are what they are. Now it's game time. Now it's time to go. Chiefs Ravens next week. We'll talk about that game next week. Whether we're ready or not, football season's here. The next few months are going to be glorious. They're going to be very beautiful. Fantasy draft number 1 last weekend, we were able to wrap that up. That was super exciting. Dally, if you're listening to this, your team still sucks. You still had the most embarrassing draft sticker. It is what it is, man. Honestly, get better. Honestly, you need to be better, and hopefully you figure it out at some point. So let's transition over to some real football. KU opens up season Thursday night against Lindenwood. Unfortunately, the booth's under construction, but that's okay. They have a home. They'll play Children's Mercy Park. So they're playing their smaller opponent games at Children's Mercy Park, and then they get the big opponents at Arrowhead. That's going to be wild. I think of Arrowhead and KU. I think of KU Missouri battles. The nasty battles, man. The high scoring, Todd Reese and Kerry Meyer, and our kicker doinking an extra point to keep us from out. That was national championship season. He missed the extra point. Either way, no Mizzou this year. They're pussies. Damn. Well, the line's 45 points. KU 45-point favorite, as they should be. All right. Lindenwood, I mean, I know they're over there in St. Charles, about an hour from us. It is what it is. And we kind of talked yesterday about what we were wanting to see. Again, man, this is a preseason-like game. I want to see guys in the correct spots. I don't want to see stupid penalties, no pre-snap penalties. We just want a good, clean game. I think more importantly, we want JD6 healthy at the end of it.
Yeah, that's typically my mindset on games. I like good, clean football. Be gap disciplined, assignment disciplined. Don't do anything stupid. But I'm a little bit opposite with this week 1 game, man. I want to come out and piss all over them. Not, and rightfully so, it's still KU football, but there's still a lot of doubters on this KU program. And I'm not saying KU's deserve the right to just be believed in. Don't get me wrong. But I want to do to this team what good teams are supposed to do. When you see Alabama really challenging themselves to play Mercer, and you see the scores like 73-3 at halftime, that's what I want. I just want to embarrass them.
NCAA 25, these guys.
Well, shit, that's what the good teams do on these matchups.
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
I obviously just want to win, but I'm not going to feel good if we're in the 4th quarter and it's like a 35-24 game. I'm going to be like, shit, these doubters might have had something to hang their hat on, and I don't want that. I want them to come out 42-0 at halftime. JD takes his pads off, gets in street clothes, and then watch the backups win the second half 42-0. It's more of I know it's a preseason game, and it's not, we're not going to be considered national champions no matter how this game goes. I just want the game to go how these games go when the team is expected to be good. No more moral victories. No more, ooh, we squeaked out a dub. No more, it's KU football. Like, I want us to do what all good teams are supposed to do in this situation. If there's a stupid penalty or two along the way because you're playing aggressive or going all out, I'll live with it. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I want to see all of that. But I only want to see it if it's just an absolute ass beating. No offense to our neighbors up the road, but I hope it's a complete embarrassment to them and their families.
Yeah, so unfortunately, over the last few years, our basketball teams kind of made an example out of this and not taking teams very seriously. Lance is smart enough. He knows that this team really hasn't accomplished anything. So you've won a bowl game. Cool. But is that really your expectation, or do you want to go be great? And I love the basketball team to death. I really do. And I know that Bill was at practices this week. It was awesome. Two goats just chilling there on the field watching. Hopefully Bill was telling them, hey, man, watch some of our games last year, 30, 40-point favorites, and we got absolute shit stomped. Take this game seriously. Things will fall into place. But absolutely do not give them any sniff of a hope. I don't want to sit here Thursday night in the fourth quarter and I'm like, what the fuck? Nah, that should be over by the first quarter. Get those young guys in, get some reps. Yeah, please. I know that this team, this is a true test, honestly. Like how good do you think you are? Because if you're cocky and you think you're good, you're going to get beat. And then I don't want to live the rest of the season and see what happens, right? So a couple of quick things about Lindenwood. Their receiver, Jeff Caldwell, is their best player, apparently. The QBs are known to get the ball out quick, and that's their offensive style, is getting the ball out quick. Said their defense struggled with the deep ball last year and the run. Well, what's that spell? All right, Devin Neal, Highshaw, go do your thing, right? Get the deep ball going to Tevin Wilson.
Jared Casey on fades, bro. That's what I heard.
Oh, dude. That's what KU – I mean, honestly, what's the offense going to look like, right? Like, new offensive coordinator. AK goes to Penn State, and I wish him the best. Obviously, he deserves that. But new offense coordinator, obviously, dude knows offense. Showcased it well enough to get Zach Wilson drafted second overall. Baylor had pretty good offenses under him. His time at BYU, he was Zach Wilson's OC. So that's good, maybe, I guess. So I see their defense struggle to defend the deep ball and the run. KU should be strong in the run game this year. I don't care who the opponent is. The deep ball, maybe. We don't have those burners. Lawrence Arnold and Quentin Skinner aren't going to burn people, but we do have Wilson and Grimm. And if he can scheme Jared Casey open, Jared Casey was open a lot last year. That's just Kotelnicki was able to scheme it that way. Then it seems that their offense last season seemed to also have a turnover issue. Well, good defense should feast this week. Set the tone early. We got the number one rated duo corners in the country. Again, it's a preseason game, so how much can you really take away from this first game, right? Now you take it serious and go get ready for Illinois. What are some other things that maybe you're going to be looking for on the defensive side of the ball?
I mean, that's the only side I'm really going to watch, specifically week one. Truth be told, I don't care what the new offense is. When the talent gap is what it's going to be from our offense to their defense, talent will usually win at some point. That's plain and simple. Barring injuries or barring what not taking it serious, I have zero worries with the offense doing what it needs to do against a Lindenwood. It's no disrespect to them, but the hype around this team coming into this season is 100% because of the offense. So if they can't do what they're supposed to do against Lindenwood, we have bigger issues anyway. So I'm going to chalk it up to they'll be fine. Honestly, I'm going to watch defense. I know I said I want an ass beating, but I'm going to go back to what you said of being in the correct spots. There's no more Logan in the back of our secondary communicating. It to the average Joe that may not seem like a lot, but honestly, it's everything. If you ever watched KU games while he was there, and you were like, "Wow, the secondary is in the right spot," or they're making plays, it's because it was quarterbacked by him. It was communicated by him, and he 1,000% would never let his position group go into any game, any play, any series asleep. I'm not saying who we have coming in can't be vocal and be a leader, but it is something to watch and see. And then honestly, linebacker play. It may not be easy to gauge against this level of opponent, but still want to watch and see how they do. Are they athletic, but don't know how to play the pass or the run gaps or what it is? I'm excited for Wheeler at linebacker. That means nothing other than I'm excited for him. I know the few times he got a good run at playing time last year, he really balled out. But he's going to kind of be the leader of the linebackers this year, so I'm excited to see. I think our starting linebackers will be fine. But I think across the board, this whole KU team, we still lack a little bit of depth. And I think linebackers is the one that's the shallowest or most shallow when it comes to depth. So, yeah, I'm going to be watching secondary safety replacement for Logan, seeing how the communication is on the back end. And then I'm going to see our linebacker play. Shockingly, I'm fairly confident with our starters and backups in rotation for the defensive line. I like what we have there. Even if they're going to suck in Big 12 play, I still have enough confidence that they can manhandle Lindenwood. But I'm a defensive guy, so that's everything I'm looking for is on defense. But it is still going to be kind of hard to gauge, so it's going to more or less, if we talk about week one, it probably sound like nitpicking because you're really, really looking for something. But I'm most worried about the defensive side, so that's really what I want to see. If we come out and give up a 40-piece to Lindenwood,
Woo!
we can start 73-40, like still a big victory. But are we really
Ain't basketball season yet?
Right? No. So I think offense will do their job. Defense, I think there's less margin for error. But I'm always excited to watch defense, so this isn't news to anybody who knows me. But either way, I'm honestly just excited to watch Kate. We should probably be talking about how's our special team unit's going to look, because that's been the shaky part, even under our Lance and our couple good winning seasons. It's like, when are we going to figure teams out?
It looks like our returner is going to be Wilson's going to be the returner. That Pierre Badakis, whatever his name is, he's going to be the kicker. But yeah, I agree. It's not necessarily has anything to do with returners or the place kickers. It has a lot to do with your other players on special teams. KU did announce their captains yesterday. One defensive player and the one that you mentioned and the one that you're excited about, Cornell Wheeler, is captain. Devin Neal, no surprise. Jalen Daniels, no surprise. Luke Grimm, no surprise. 3 of the 4. Wheeler was a transfer, came in last year. But the other 3 guys, they've been here from day one. This is a huge year for them. No matter what, it's still been a successful career for those guys, just based on where they started and where they're at now. Those guys will tell you that obviously it's playoff or nothing, but that's not necessarily how I view it. Ask me again in 5 weeks, and then ask me again in 7 weeks, right? Like where are we at when we're thick in the Big 12 competition? But you don't take care of business against any of these non-cons, and the Big 12 becomes irrelevant. Even though you can still win your conference, but you're not as confident. That margin of error is already slim. Don't make it that much slimmer by going out and not taking care of business in your non-conference schedule. We'll have a game review next week. That'll be our sports hits. We'll kind of break down the KU game and what happened. Run through some stats. Then we're full steam ahead for week 1 of NFL. We're going to introduce to you guys next week our fantasy player sleeper. We're going to have a fantasy sleeper to watch. And then we're going to have a fantasy bust. Like, stay away from this dude. We're excited. There's a few other things that we're looking at doing to get ready for the football season. Let's take the last couple minutes to kind of explain how you feel about your fantasy football team, bro.
I do. I want to ask one question real quick about the captains. It's not that any of them, I'd say, don't deserve it. Are you surprised that Kobe isn't a captain?
I am. I think to have one defensive player as a captain, I get it. He's your middle linebacker. He's not Rich Miller, though, man. Like, he's got to go out. I mean, he showed signs last year of being good. Kobe kind of brings that nasty to the defense.
And he's been here through some dark years. He's been here through some dark years, so it's not like he hasn't gone through thick and thin with us. So obviously, I love Wheeler. I am excited for him, but and I'm not even saying he doesn't deserve to be a captain. I was surprised that Kobe wasn't a captain.
Yeah, I agree. I do.
He's kind of the first person I think of with KU football, as far as culture change and attitude and riding it out with us.
He's one that I think would fill in for Kenny Logan vocally, just being how he's been through everything with this team, kind of like Kenny, right? Kenny came from a long line of really good safeties that we had, but just really bad teams. OJ Burrows is going to do fine. I think he's going to be well on his way. But he's not. I don't think he's going to be able to replace Kenny right away. Whereas Kobe, he's already your best player, all American. So I totally agree. Nothing against Wheeler, and maybe he comes out and balls out, and I hope he does, because if he's doing it, then that means we're doing well. But I don't know if maybe it's team voted. Who knows?
That's true. No, I'm actually excited for the other safety. I never remember his first name. I think it's Marvin.
Gant.
Yeah,
it's Marvin.
Just kind of another name to listen to, because I don't think he's getting enough love. If you've listened to us every week, you can be like, oh, it's just Austin throwing out another random defensive player in hopes that he balls out. But I don't think he's getting enough love.
We'll do Marvin Grant updates every week just to keep pace and show you what he's doing.
Yeah, there it is. No, but then we can spend a couple minutes for fantasy football. Just to lay the foundation, my league says I rigged the draft order for me to get the first overall pick.
100%.
Anybody who knows anything about fantasy football and likes fantasy football knows that the number one pick is the worst spot. So, if I would have come in and I had the 10th pick, I would have been like, you know what, maybe I did rig this. Who knows? Obviously walked away with Christian McCaffrey. There's really no other option for the number one pick. Love it or hate it, it is what it is. Another terrible reason for the number one pick, you don't really have a choice. I could have sat here and took Isaiah Pacheco, but I'm not.
What's the fun in that?
I'm stupid, but I ain't that stupid. But other than that, I like the team I got. We did our fantasy rankings a while back, if you remember, and you and Yahoo, and this is the only pick that I remember I'm making, really. But the quarterback list, you and Yahoo had CJ Stroud towards the end of the top 10, middle end. And on my list, I had CJ Stroud as QB number 3. And my drafting kind of followed that, because I took CJ Stroud I think lower than his average draft position, but there were still some other quarterbacks on the board that people would prefer. I think Joey Burrow was out there. Anthony Richardson was still out there. Some other quarterbacks, but just letting y'all
Just
listeners
for
know, I practice what I preach. Okay.
someone else doesn't because Jalen Hurts was the first quarterback off the board.
Hey, I said I'm stupid, but not that stupid. I didn't say that for everyone in the league, but I feel good about my roster. Have a good starting 2 running backs with a lot of running back potential on the bench. I got the most underrated player in fantasy football just in football in general that you've heard us talk about, Mike Evans. So feeling pretty good. Obviously, fantasy's all luck, so we'll see if luck's on my side or not. But going in, I feel pretty good.
Yeah, bro. Jalen Hurts was taken right before Patrick Mahomes.
That's wild.
Rookies, man. That's going to wrap it up this week. Like I said, next week we'll break down KU game, give you guys week 1 preview, Chiefs-Ravens, Thursday Night Football. Chiefs dropping another banner. Bullshit. Then we'll give you guys a week 1 preview of the NFL in general with our sleeper pick to watch, sleeper bust to stay away from. Find us on Apple. Find us on Spotify. Find us on iHeart. Numbers are going up, right? Still getting those followers on Instagram. Make sure you come find us at Shovick Sports. All right. Still looking to get some more guests on. Trying to find people who want to talk Chiefs Ravens. Apparently everyone who talks Chiefs are too big for us. It's not easy being them, right? So we'll still try to work on that. Again, if you want to come on the show, just chop up some sports. It's football season, so we're going to kind of stick to that. But we'll talk anything. All right. Royals are winning again, but it looks like Michael Lorenzen just exited the game with an injury, so that's good. Boo. So until next week, we'll talk to you guys then.